What's up? Hey, hello everyone. Wow. So we are back going to be talking about Survivor season 35, episode 2. It doesn't really even feel like the second episode, which is super crazy, but my name is Rachel.
And I'm Alyssa, and I agree that this didn't really feel like the second episode. It felt like one of those episodes that you see like post-merge when they're just like establishing how like everyone else relates to everyone now that they're like all together, but it felt like that for the separate tribes, which was really interesting. So like most of this podcast, we're going to be talking about like tribe dynamics and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of this episode was basically like set up a lot of tribe dynamics, like background, how people are interacting with each other to set up like a future episode or the tribe swap that's going to happen. So I don't know. I thought it was really interesting, but it also seems like very like trivial, I guess. The things that the tribes were talking about were sort of like, oh, these are the Survivor basics, like we're going fishing, we're having a showmance, and like we're having infighting already. So it seemed very like basic, and I'm not sure whether that's like Survivors, like producers doing, trying to like build some background story arc kind of things, or if it's just like that this tribe or like this cast is just boring.
I feel like it might just be one of those things where it's going to take them a little bit to warm up to like being around the camera. I feel like it's interesting because like the last episode that we saw was like an all returnees season, so they kind of like knew what it was like to be in front of the camera 24/7, and I feel like we'll get more of their personalities once they get comfortable like actually talking to the camera and not just being like, OMG, everyone's watching me.
Yeah, so hopefully, because otherwise I feel like we're seeing a lot of very like Survivor. I don't know. It's like Survivor before Survivor had strategy, kind of like where everyone's just about like the survival aspect and less about like um the other things, I guess.
Yeah, I really hope that they get better at strategy. Otherwise, this is going to be like a very boring season to watch. But I don't know. One of the things I thought as I was like watching this episode was that there like wasn't really a lot of people that I wanted to root for. Like even the ones that seemed like they knew what they were doing strategy wise seemed really cocky. Like Ryan and Chrissy both seem like they like have a strategy, but I don't really like either of them at this moment in time just because they seem like they know they have a strategy and that just and not in a good way.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people seem very like cocky or they're portrayed as sort of overconfident. Like last episode we saw Alan being like super confident, and this episode we see like Chrissy and Ryan and them being a little overconfident, I guess. But after tribal council, we see the heroes tribe go back to camp, and Chrissy, I feel like, is very smart as an actuary. She's keeping this idol that she got from Ryan to use as a fake idol in the future, and I thought that was really interesting because, like, obviously it looks like a real idol, and I feel like she could play it off as a real idol, whereas people who make their own fake idols, like, they don't really look as good as real idols.
I think it's really interesting just because what I really, really want to happen is for Chrissy to try to get Ryan to take the fake idol and then like have Ryan be voted out because of his own idol he gave Chrissy backfiring on him. I know that's probably not going to happen, but if it did happen, I would laugh and then I'd cry and then I'd laugh again.
That would be funny if people thought it was like a vote between Alan or Ryan and Chrissy, and then Chrissy tricks everyone into thinking she has this fake idol, and then Ryan goes home. LOL. But yeah, I don't know. So like we see them back at camp, and there's a ton of cracks in the heroes tribe already. Like everyone is sketched out about Alan kind of thing right now, and I feel like that's basically what we said last episode, Alyssa and I, because like Chrissy not using the super idol to save Katrina was a good idea, I personally feel like, because like things change so quickly, especially only after 3 days. Like now we sort of see Chrissy has moved up into a semi-power position. So I feel like things change so quickly. There's so many cracks already in the heroes tribe, but like I feel like Chrissy is good with Ben and JP and Ashley now.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely one of those things where Alan being so erratic was really good for her. And I thought it was really funny because everyone thought that that vote played out in their favor because Chrissy was like, oh, yeah, now I'm in with the rest of the people. And Alan was like, oh, yeah, I got people to think that JP and Ashley are a power couple. And Ashley and JP were like, oh, yeah, now everyone thinks Alan's neurotic. So basically, everyone thinks that the vote played out in their favor. And I think it's going to be really interesting when the heroes next go to tribal because someone's going to have to realize that they're not actually in as good of a position as they think.
Yeah, so I think that might be interesting. Like, I feel like going to the, yeah, I don't know. I think that would be interesting because I feel like Healer's tribe is definitely the tribe to beat in the immunity challenges because they have won like first place in all 3 of the challenges so far. So I feel like that is like the strong tribe coming into it. And even like we saw in this immunity challenge, healers were like dead last kind of thing, but they still managed to become in first place. And the same thing as the last immunity challenge. They got to the puzzle picking thing last, but they still came in first. So I feel like that'll be really interesting based on like if healers win immunity every single time, basically, it's going to be between the hustlers and the heroes going to tribal next week and the week after before tribe swap, I think, at 14.
I think it's really interesting just because the healers, like, I don't think that they're particularly strong or skilled, but they're very good under pressure. And I feel like that's what the hustlers like were missing. Like when they started messing up on the signpost puzzle, they kind of like let that get to their head. So.
Yeah, so speaking of the hustlers, we saw some hustler tribe dynamics. During this episode, we see that Devin and Ryan have become like super close. And I don't know, I guess that's interesting. You wouldn't really expect like super hot dude with a skinny, like little weird dude. And I don't know, I thought it was funny. Ryan describes Simone as like weird, like no one has connections with Simone, she's weird. And I'm like, Ryan, you can't be calling other people weird, like look at yourself. But
yeah, pot meat kettle. But I think it does say something that like Ryan is able to make a connection with Devin because it means that he's not just like strategy robot. And I feel like that's a lot of the thing we see the like small skinny guys like getting stuck into. Like they become like the strategic people, the tacticians, and then sometimes that can be bad for them at final tribal depending on like who is seen as the one making the moves. Like who other players attribute big moves to is just as important as who actually made the big move.
yeah, I think it's like maybe like a reverse Steven Fishback even. Like Ryan is going to be like the skinny kind of like Cochran, Steven Fishback-esque kind of character. And then he's bringing Devin as like the Jeremy or JT character. Because I feel like, I don't know, Devin, maybe it's like all the hot guys this season, but I feel like Devin, like he's going to strategize too much. But I don't know, that could just be like an attractive guy thing. But like I feel like Ryan will be the one in the driver's seat of this relationship, and then like we'll see what happens.
I think it'll be interesting just because like Devin could very well play the whole like, oh, I don't know anything about strategy thing to his advantage, because like it could be that like Ryan is the one who's targeted as like the strategic mastermind, kind of like how David was targeted in Millennials versus Gen X. That's the season name. And then Ken was kind of like left to fend for himself, except for if Devin can prove himself strategic enough that when Ryan goes out, he can still like strategize, and that could be really good for him.
Yeah, I think like, yeah, I think Devin would have like a good like final tribal council selling point if he like talked about that, like, you know, I was like the right hand man or like a man and like I took out the dude that was in my way of winning the $1 million. But yeah, I don't know, I think that's like super interesting. They finally talked about aqua dumping on Survivor, so basically how people poop on the show. And I don't know, I think this was like sort of interesting because Simone's edit this entire episode was basically her complaining and being sort of like timid, I guess. She's like, no AC, blah, blah, blah. But like, then she also gets a sort of edit like, oh, I'm trying to try new things. I'll skin this fish. Like, I'll try to do that because I want to push myself outside of my comfort zone. So I think it was interesting how like she sort of gets like a positive edit with the trying new things, but a very like negative edit of like her always complaining or her like falling into Ally's like palm basically in that scene. And I feel like, I don't know, it seems like an Asian stereotype even, like.
I just thought it was one of those things where like they want to make it pretty obvious that she's the one going home, but they didn't just want to spend the entire episode bashing her. So I feel like it was one of those things where they wanted to edit it in such a way that everyone was like, oh, it makes sense that Simone went home this episode, but also make it like, oh, Simone just doesn't suck totally type thing.
Yeah, it's like they voted Simone out because she doesn't have a connection with the people in the tribe. And like, I guess, yeah, she's not as good as challenges. But we can talk about that in the before tribal part because I think there are some like underlying factors in this that are a tad bit sketchy. But yeah, Ally seems to have a connection with basically everyone on the tribe. Like Lauren is following Ally around. Like Simone even goes to Ally thinking like use her as like a pawn kind of thing. Like Patrick and Ally are super close, and like Ryan we see talking with Ally too before tribal council. So I feel like this is interesting because it could mean like Ally goes far in the game, or it could mean like Ally's going to be voted out soon, maybe in a tribe swap, because people realize that like she has a personality, she has the charm to like win over people.
I think it all really depends on like how much other people realize that everyone else is going to Ally too, because like you can very easily play the role of like the chess master if no one else realizes that you're the one who everyone else is going to. Like if everyone thinks that like, oh, she's only listening to me strategize, then they might feel better about keeping her around for longer, and then that would end up biting them in the butt.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting, the longevity of Ally's game, because I think I put Ally in my final 3 with Patrick, and I guess when we talk about that, it'll be like sort of interesting to see. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's pretty much the Hustlers tribe right now. There's a lot of like power dynamics because I think Ryan can be a super strong player. The Ryan Devin duo can be strong. The Patrick and Ally duo can be strong. And then if that foursome comes together, like we saw in this vote, I feel like Lauren is the odd one out.
Yeah.
In next episode, Lauren would obviously be the one to be voted out because I feel like Patrick will stay loyal, whereas Lauren is more of a wild card. She would flip on the young people in this tribe.
I feel like it might not even be that Patrick would be more loyal, but just that, like, I feel like Lauren is very easily the kind of person to, like, make snap judgments and hold grudges. Like, a lot of what we saw this episode was her talking about Patrick. And so I feel like that sort of personality isn't very good in Survivor because you need to be open to, like, aligning with anyone, basically, who will keep you in the game longer.
Yeah, I guess you can't really outwardly hate people. You have to be good at faking it, which I think is like a part of something new for Lauren, being in a job where like you don't really talk to a lot of people. So I think that's like interesting to think about. But yeah, alas, moving on to the Healers tribe. So this is the yellow tribe. We see Cole and Jessica start of a showmance, which I am like, I don't know. And then we see like Cole talking about Jessica, like, oh, like she's 30 and like I'm younger, so she probably doesn't see me in that way. And I'm like, this is just so cringy. I don't know if I want to like watch this.
Yeah, I was just kind of like, when did 30 become old? Jeez.
Yeah, like,
I don't know.
Like the age difference is like 10 years.
I think it's less than that. He was older than 20.
No, yeah, like, so it's normal. I think it's, I don't know. He's
Mhm.
probably like 25, 27. I don't remember how old he is. But, like, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, so we also see during this time Joe is looking for the idol. And then Joe tells Cole about, like, the idol clue and stuff like that. And I feel like this wasn't good. I feel like Ryan telling Devin about the super immunity idol was good for Ryan's game because, like, I guess Ryan can trust Devin and, like, he knew in the fact that they could be a good, like, couple together. But, like, Joe and Cole, like, that's not an obvious, or, like, we haven't seen them, like, talking that much to warrant, like, a power duo or an alliance or a strong alliance between these two. And I feel like Cole just sounds so dumb, and all of his confessionals, it sounds so fake, it sounds so scripted. He's like, oh, I'm having the best day so far, this is why I'm on Survivor. And I'm like, are you literally feeding this kid his lines?
I'm just like,
because
Cole
Cole was
is.
definitely, he didn't audition for the show. He was definitely, like, handpicked to come on this show. So, like, does he not have any substance?
I just think it's really interesting just because, like, Cole could have very easily, like, told Joe, like, oh, yeah, it's totally by where the raft was. And then made it so, like, Joe spent his time looking fruitlessly and Cole got to find the real idol. And, like, you can tell that he's smart because he thought to go back to the tree and, like, chop off the map of the idol so that no one else could find it and then realize that the idol wasn't there.
Yeah, like, that was smart. And I feel like maybe it's just Cole's job as, like, the wilderness therapy guide, like, to help Joe. And he even says it in a confessional, like, he wants to help others, like, reach their full potential. And I was like, oh, good. Like, Cole is somewhat smart. He was the one to figure out the clue, like, oh, it's by the well. And then, like, we saw in the preview for next episode, like, Cole and Joe just don't seem that close, and we telling Jessica, like, oh, Joe has the idol. And I feel like that early in the game, it's hard to, like, tell people you have the idol because it's so early. Everyone will use it as a target, especially if you guys haven't gone to tribal yet, so you don't have those, like, tribal lines to base, like, votes off of.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because in a way, Cole letting Joe find the idol might be a strategic play accidentally. So
Like, I don't know. We'll see. I feel like, I don't know. Joe just, like, it's sort of, like, weird. Like, the way he talks in his confessionals, he's like, oh, like, I like, what's his name now?
I don't know who you're talking about.
The sex doctor.
Mike.
Mike. He's like, oh, yeah, I like Mike now, but he's still public enemy #1. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to feel about Joe. I feel like
His idea of bonding with people is to call them ugly, and I'm like, friendo, that's not how this works.
yeah. So, like, I don't know. That just, like, seems super weird, but, like, yeah. I don't know. The Healers tribe, I guess I don't really see them going to tribal council before a tribe swap, maybe one time, but definitely not 2 times going to tribal. So I feel like it'll definitely be between Hustlers and Heroes next week or this week, depending on how you see things.
Yeah. I'm just like, it's just, I feel like, I think I said this earlier, but I feel like there's very few people this season to really root for. Like, the only person so far that I'm like, yeah, I would want them to win this is Allie.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like the screen time isn't very divided out. I feel like the tribe that goes to tribal gets a lot of the screen time, which is warranted because you need to know, like, oh, who's going home this week. But, like, on the other tribes, like, we don't really, like, Desi, we've only heard, like, oh, she modeled and she won some modeling pageants this episode.
We don't really hear much about Jessica except for the fact that, like, she's going to be in a showmance with Cole, and then
it's only seen through like the male gaze of like Cole's view. Like I don't think Jessica talked at all besides like laughing weirdly by the boat when she was trying to fish.
yeah, and then like Rourke is pretty much invisible.
Yeah. So I mean, go challenge. I don't know. I always think it's like weird when people can't dive down and hold their breaths to fucking get like things from like the ocean. I'm like, if you volunteer to like dive down and stuff and you can't swim or you can't hold your breath, like the masks come with a nose thing. Like, why can't you hold your breath? It doesn't make sense.
I also don't get it because it's like, you know, you're going to be on Survivor. You can't spare like an extra hour each day to like go to a public pool and practice. Come on,
yeah,
guys.
or like do some swim lessons or something. I don't know. Like even like in these kinds of challenges, I feel like you see one person that like takes the lead and like does all three things. Like we saw Devin like go dive down 3 times, and like the other people are just sort of like treading water out there because they can't do anything. So it's sort of like weird because it's sort of like one person is doing all the work because it turns out that everyone else sucks and they can't do shit.
Well, also, it could be like more efficient to like have one person do all the work if that's what you decide. Just because like if you have to communicate like, oh, I untied this one, but I didn't get to bang it or didn't get to like hit it all the way out, or if it's like I untied all three can be hit or whatever, that can take time. But if it's just like one person going down again and again because no one else can do anything, that's like a different situation.
Yeah, so I mean, the immunity challenge, it was good, I guess. We saw it was weird, like for the puzzle part, how they feature where Survivor has been, like the different places. But like an article came out saying that Jeff Probst might want to keep Survivor in Fiji forever. So I guess it's sort of weird that they had like the thing say like all the different places Survivor has been when Survivor is thinking of like place basically.
Yeah, I think it's also one of those things where like the signpost could have been blank and it would have been just as like difficult of a challenge. Like it would have been cool if like maybe there was like a list of hints that would help you like put the signpost together correctly quicker if you knew Survivor trivia or something like that.
Yeah, like those block challenges at Tribal where it's like, oh, blah blah blah, let's do some facts about Fiji or Cambodia or something. Those are like cool.
Yeah, I think those are interesting just because I feel like earlier in Survivor, it focused a lot more on like how survivors interacted like with the culture in addition to like just being in a pretty location and stuff. So.
Like in Cambodia, they went and saw the Angkor Wat. Like that's pretty cool. And like doing the individual immunity challenges where you get to go see like villages or like waterfalls and stuff like that's pretty neat. But yeah, I mean, Healer's tribe was dead last, and then they caught up, and then Hustler tribe loses. And I feel like of the immunity challenge, Devin says, oh, Simone's got to go. And basically, whenever that happens, right before the commercial break, after the immunity challenge, before like the tribal council sequence, that means Simone is going home. So I sort of dislike when they like do that kind of thing, I guess. But I guess for the casual viewer, it's like, Simone is going home. But it could be Patrick going home.
Yeah, I feel like one of the qualms I've had with Survivor editing lately is that, like, for someone who watches Survivor a lot, it becomes very easy to read. So it's like, I would like it if they, like, tried, like, doing something twisty and crazy that we, like, couldn't follow as easily.
Like, I don't know, but I guess it's harder because you can't really, for casual people who don't know the tribe, don't know the people, you can't hang on or else it's just too confusing. So
yeah.
before Tribal, it seems like a Patrick versus Simone who's going to go home. It seems like it's guys versus girls, kind of. Like Lauren, Simone, and Allie might vote Patrick, and then Devin, Ryan, and Patrick will vote Simone. But Patrick and Allie have an alliance. And so basically, it's like uncertainty with Patrick versus and Patrick's strength versus like loyalty with Simone. I don't know. I think it's really have said that Patrick and Allie like knew each other before the game started, and to have them like know each other and then to have them on the same tribe on the same season seems very sketchy to me. And I think that's sort of like influenced the fact that Allie wants to keep Patrick, and that Allie feels like such a strong affinity towards Patrick, and they had that alliance since day one.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where like production probably wouldn't want to say anything about like Allie and Patrick like knowing each other beforehand, because it's like if they knew that Allie and Patrick knew each other and they still put them on the same tribe, then that's like saying like, oh, we wanted to give those two an extra boost. But it's like if they admitted that they didn't know that Allie and Patrick knew each other, that would be like admitting that they hadn't done enough research about them and stuff like that.
So bad, because even from their preseason like bios, I noticed that Allie went to University of Alabama and Patrick is from Alabama, and like even if they weren't like super close from Alabama, like people have said they definitely like knew of each other or had mutual friends, and they have pictures together and stuff like that. So it's sort of like hella sketch that you have people who definitely know each other and who could basically have like a freaking solid power duo, because if you do know someone before the game, you definitely will trust them more than someone you met 6 days ago or 9 days ago or whatever. So I feel like
even knowing someone who's like a friend of a friend is better than knowing nobody.
You would want to work with that person because like real life is different from the game, and you can sort of be like together because like it's from real life. It's not like just the game kind of thing. I think it'll be interesting to see how far this alliance goes, and to see if like how far each Patrick and Allie will go to try to save the other person.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where this is kind of the premise of like blood versus water, but like if you're playing with someone that you already know and love, then that can make it a lot more difficult to strategize, just because you're always having to like keep them in the back of your mind.
Yeah, because that could hurt Allie in the future if like, oh, everyone wants to vote Patrick and she's not willing to like let Patrick go in a sense. But I feel like Allie seems smart. Like if the majority wants Patrick, maybe she'll vote Patrick. But I don't know. Patrick just seems super like not smart. He seems like someone that you could easily maybe go to the end. And like in tribal council, Patrick's like, oh, I trust most of the people out here. So it's like he's not trusting all of the people. And he blatantly says it at tribal council. And like, I don't know, all of Patrick's scenes on this episode was him like doing stupid things, like him looking at himself in like the goggles. Like his edit is just so bad.
Yeah, I feel like Patrick is definitely like being edited to be like the goofball or the crazy person, and like those people don't really win.
Yeah,
like he's kind of like Debbie.
Triggered. So yeah, I don't know. I thought Simone like did well at tribal council. I was almost hoping like, oh, like I would want to see more of Simone. Like she has an interesting like, but then it's interesting. Like even Lauren voted Simone too. So I guess like Allie brought her into the fold, and I think that's good for Allie or the person who did bring Lauren in. So now Lauren feels like more in with the majority kind of thing. So if hustlers don't go to tribal again before the swap, then they at least have like Lauren on their side rather than alienating her.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where like it's always good to like get as many connections with people as you possibly can. So like it doesn't do you any good to burn bridges when like you could keep them.
like might as well just be nice to people. It's not like it'll kill to be friendly or like let someone in on the plan, especially when webs are this small and especially when it's so early in the game, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that basically wraps up our podcast for today. I think I'm excited for this week's episode. I have a ton of hope reasons, so I will be on the grind, but I will watch the episode and hopefully Friday or so we can podcast.
Yeah, I actually get to watch the episode live this weekend, which was great because this past week I had a test on Wednesday night and I cried a little inside, but it's okay. We're all good, and Survivor makes everything better. So if you guys have anything you want to say about this episode that we didn't touch on, please comment it down below, and we'll try to respond to as many of your comments as possible. And yeah. Anything else, Rachel?
Yeah, so I mean, for watching and subscribing and liking and commenting and all of that jazz. Like, it truly means so much to Alyssa and I because I feel like this is something that we love to do, and I feel like Survivor is like a constant in our lives, and it's something that brings both of us a lot of happiness, even though we might be stressed or sad about other things. I think like Survivor is always there. So I think we will go on about our days.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.